We knew from between 11 and 12 o'clock that the Israelis were circling us. There were radio messages sent to the captains of the ships. They were told to turn back. The response was we were determined to head for Gaza and that we wouldn't divert from our course. The attack, when it came, was without warning, and was without warning on all the ships. They came in on top of us in the dark, and we were lucky because we spotted them as they were approaching us from the back, that we were able, because we had the speed in our boat, to head off quite quickly, and we managed to evade them for a while. The other ships, the larger ships, weren't in a position to do that. But when they eventually did board our boat as a result of a threatened ramming, as Fiacre has pointed out, they came on the boat with considerable violence. As I tried, we had decided beforehand that we were going to non-violently defend the boat in order to facilitate the journalists, because the journalists had taken photographs of the attack on the flotilla, the attack on the Mavi Marmara in particular. But we thought that if we could impede the boarding party, it would allow them to upload their material or to secrete the photographs or footage on their persons. As it happened, one of the first things the Israelis did when they attacked the flotilla was jam all forms of transmission, satellite phones, radio, etc. Now, there were some things they weren't able to jam, but basically they cast a blanket, an electronic blanket over the flotilla. But the journalists on our boat did actually manage to hide footage, and some of that footage has since been published. Some of Paul Garrity's photographs of the attack on the Mavi Marmara were published in the Irish Times, for instance. But our purpose was to defend the boat non-violently in order to allow them time to upload or hide their footage. But the Israelis knew from the outset that this was a peaceful mission. They knew that the cargo had been searched and secured prior to the ships leaving port. They knew that everybody on the boats had been vetted. They knew there were no weapons on the boats. Nonetheless, the attack on all the boats was carried out as if they were dealing with terrorists. When they attacked the Challenger 1, they came on board, even though our defence was non-violent. They came on board by lobbing stun grenades. They tasered people. They shot people in the face with plastic bullets, and they assaulted. They roughed up and assaulted most people, or at least many people on the boat. Certainly, I was assaulted and physically stood on by the Israelis as I attempted to impede their access to the bridge. And they threatened to shoot me, and to be frank about this, it was clear to me at that time that Israeli soldier would have shot me. The level of violence was extreme, but they were able to overwhelm us quite quickly. There were only 17 of us on a very small ship. There could have been at least 30 of these highly trained naval commanders came on very quickly and gained control of the boat with relative ease. On the larger Greek ship, it was more difficult because there were more people on that ship, and they used more violence to take that ship. They beat people up with rifle butts and so on. They basically, they were quite savage in their methodology in terms of taking the boat, and that was because I think the people there were capable of putting up non-violent resistance, in a more concerted way. But there was never any attempt to violently resist, but there was an attempt to impede the boarding parties on all the ships. Quite rightly, on the Mavi Marmara, there was an attempt to use anti-piracy tactics to stop them from boarding, and we saw that as we passed the Mavi Marmara. We were very close to the Mavi Marmara as it was being attacked, and in fact, some of the Zodiacs that were following us peeled off to engage with the attack on the Mavi Marmara. We saw them in the Mavi Marmara using low water pressure hoses to keep off the Zodiacs. We saw them dropping bags of rubbish on top of the Israelis. We saw the helicopter overhead. We also saw the stun grenades going off in the back of the Mavi Marmara. There was mayhem on that boat as the Israelis were attacking. They were attacking violently. Normal anti-piracy techniques were being used. It has been suggested, initially by the Israelis, and I think since by certain befuddled individuals, that there was a violent defence of the Mavi Marmara by those on board. That is not true. Some of the boarding party, the initial boarding party that came down from the helicopter, may have got a few slaps as people took guns off of them, but they were treated humanely. The guns were taken. I think there was a gun thrown overboard. Bullets were taken out of the guns. They were taken away, given medical treatment, and released. That's in stark contrast to what the Israelis did on that ship. The Israelis used live ammunition from the get-go. They killed people from the outset. and they brutalised people on that ship. I mean, bear in mind that we know of the 9 dead. There are also 2 people still in hospital in critical condition, a very critical condition in Turkey. There are other people with bullet wounds. We don't hear about the other people that suffered gunshot wounds. There were a lot. And the violence used by the Israelis is substantial. So when I hear people talk about the Islamicists on the Turkish ship and the violence they used to defend the boat, I think those people are either in denial or they're deluded. Because anybody in that situation who is violently attacked by armed men, where the situation is immediately thrown into chaos by the use of stun grenades, live ammunition and plastic bullets, is inevitably going to attempt some sort of defence, not of just themselves, but of their friends, and defend their friends from being killed. And people were in fear of their lives, but there was no violence used in the sense that the Israelis have talked about.